This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Coming up on today's roundup, a new study links your favorite fruits to pesticide levels in your body, and AI can now detect a rare hormone disorder just by looking at your hands. We'll explore whether mindfulness actually makes you a kinder person, and how a brief course of antibiotics might help the brain heal after a head injury. Plus, your heart might know you've made a mistake before your brain does, and researchers have discovered a paradoxical wake state induced by a powerful psychedelic. We'll also look at why children of divorce may develop stronger morals despite emotional hardships, how the psychological drive for structure fuels conspiracy theories, and how a common blood protein could stop a deadly fungal infection. Finally, we'll share a guided meditation to help you cultivate an undefended heart.
Let's start with what's on your dinner plate.
It's a bit of a wake-up call for produce lovers. A sweeping new study from the Environmental Working Group, or EWG, has found a direct link between the fruits and vegetables we eat and the levels of pesticides circulating in our bodies. They analyzed data from nearly 2,000 participants and found that those who ate more high-residue items, like strawberries, spinach, and bell peppers, had significantly higher levels of pesticide biomarkers in their urine.
That's concerning, especially since we're always told to eat more greens. Alexis Temkin, the lead author of the study, pointed out that while produce is essential for health, it's also a major route of exposure. The researchers used USDA data and CDC biomonitoring to create a dietary pesticide exposure score. They looked for things like organophosphates and neonicotinoids. Interestingly, the link only became super clear once they removed potatoes from the data, because potatoes are eaten in so many processed forms it's hard to track.
Right, and the study highlights that our current safety standards might not be enough, because the EPA usually sets limits for individual chemicals, but we're often exposed to a mixture of many at once. The good news? Switching to organic can lower those pesticide levels in your body within just a few days. The EWG still recommends eating your veggies, but maybe prioritize organic for the dirty dozen list if you can.
Now let's shift to a breakthrough in medical diagnostics involving artificial intelligence.
This is fascinating. Researchers at Kobe University have developed an AI system that can detect acromegaly, which is a rare hormone disorder, just by looking at photos of a person's hand. Acromegaly causes enlarged hands, feet, and facial changes. But because it develops so slowly, it often takes a decade to diagnose. If left untreated, it can shorten life expectancy by 10 years.
What's really smart here is the privacy aspect. Most medical AI uses facial recognition, which makes patients nervous. But this team, including graduate student Yuka Omachi, focused only on the back of the hand and a clenched fist. They even avoided the palms because palm lines are as unique as fingerprints. They trained the model on over 11,000 images from 15 different institutions, and the AI actually outperformed experienced specialists in identifying the disease.
It's a huge step for accessibility, especially in rural areas where specialists aren't always available. The team is already looking into whether this same tech can detect rheumatoid arthritis or anemia. It's not meant to replace doctors, but to act as a screening tool that catches things before they become critical.
Next up, we're looking at the real-world effects of mindfulness practice.
We often hear that mindfulness makes you a better, kinder person, but researchers at UC Berkeley and other institutions wanted to see if the science actually backs that up. They looked at several areas, including body image and pro-social behavior. One study of college students found that those with higher mindfulness scores had less body shame and were more attuned to their physical needs.
But the kindness part is where it gets really interesting. A review of 31 studies found that people who practice mindfulness are indeed more compassionate. However, there was a catch. People who just rated themselves as naturally mindful were mostly kinder to people they already knew. It was the people who did formal training who extended that kindness to total strangers. Also, for anyone looking for a quick fix, the research showed that benefits like improved memory and lower anxiety didn't really kick in until after 8 weeks of steady practice. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That consistency is key. It's like a mental muscle that needs regular exercise to actually change your default reactions.
Now, let's look at a surprising discovery in how we treat brain injuries.
This study from Houston Methodist Research Institute suggests that the secret to healing a traumatic brain injury might actually be in the gut. When you hit your head, it triggers an immune response that can cause long-term inflammation and tissue damage. But researchers found that giving a brief course of broad-spectrum antibiotics right after the injury actually reduced brain damage in mice. By temporarily wiping out certain gut bacteria, they were able to calm the aggressive immune cells in the brain.
It sounds counterintuitive to use antibiotics for a head injury, but it's all about the gut-brain axis. The study showed that mice with no gut bacteria at all actually had the worst outcomes, meaning you need some microbes to signal the immune system properly. The goal isn't to kill everything, but to remodel the microbiome. They identified 2 specific strains, Parasittarella and Lactobacillus, that survived the treatment and seemed to provide neurological protection. Lead author Sonia Villapol hopes this could eventually lead to targeted probiotics that prevent long-term cognitive decline or even dementia after a TBI.
It's amazing how much our digestive health dictates our recovery in parts of the body we'd never expect.
Moving on to a study about the physical signals our bodies send when we make mistakes.
This is a wild one from the University of Granada. They found that our heart rate actually drops when we misperceive the world. In the experiment, participants had to identify the color of a letter on a screen. But the researchers made it difficult enough that people would make mistakes about 30% of the time, like seeing the color of a nearby distractor letter instead of the target.
And every time they fell for that visual illusion, their heart rate decelerated significantly more than when they got it right. Study author Maria Cobos Martin says this heartbeat slowing might be an internal salience signal. Basically, your body marks that something unexpected or wrong just happened, even before you're consciously aware of the error. It proves that consciousness isn't just happening in the brain. It's a constant dialogue between the brain and the heart.
It really reframes the idea of a gut feeling or a heartfelt reaction as a literal biological data point.
Let's turn to some groundbreaking research into the effects of psychedelics on the brain.
Researchers at the University of Oxford have been studying 5-MeO-DMT, a very fast-acting psychedelic. They discovered it induces something they're calling paradoxical wake. In their study with mice, they saw that after an injection, the animals' brains showed slow-wave activity, the kind you usually only see in deep, restorative sleep. But the mice were actually awake, moving around and exploring their cages.
It's a complete dissociation. Their pupils were dilated, which signals high arousal, but their brainwaves said they were in a deep slumber. The researchers also found that this drug-induced state seemed to fulfill some of the body's actual biological need for sleep. When they sleep-deprived the mice, the sleep rebound they usually see was much smaller if the mice had been given the psychedelic. Plus, it led to an increase in REM sleep over the following 48 hours, which is crucial for emotional processing. This could be a huge clue as to why these substances help with treatment-resistant depression.
It's like the drug forces the brain into a state of deep plasticity and emotional reset that normally takes days of perfect sleep to achieve.
Now, we shift to a study on the long-term psychological impact of childhood family changes.
A new study in Turkey examined children who experienced parental divorce or the loss of a parent. We know these events are incredibly stressful and can lead to anxiety or depression. But the researcher, Fari Sezer, found a surprising silver lining. These children often scored above average in moral maturity. That means they had a stronger sense of responsibility, fairness, and empathy than their peers from intact families.
It's a classic case of growth through adversity. The theory is that facing a family crisis early on forces a child to develop self-awareness and empathy for others' pain. However, it's not all positive. While their morals were high, their emotional adjustment was still low. They reported high levels of stress and conflict. Interestingly, the study also found that those who turned to substance use had significantly lower moral maturity scores. So while hardship can build character, the emotional toll still requires professional support to navigate.
It shows that resilience isn't just about getting over it, but about how those experiences reshape your worldview for better or worse.
Speaking of worldviews, let's talk about why some people are more prone to conspiracy theories.
This research from Flinders University suggests it's not necessarily about a lack of intelligence. Instead, it's driven by a trait called systemizing. This is the psychological drive to find patterns and strict, predictable rules in everything. People who are high systemizers find it very difficult to accept that the world is chaotic or random. For them, a conspiracy theory provides a neat, interconnected narrative that makes sense of a confusing event.
Researcher Neophytus Georgiou found that even people with strong scientific reasoning skills can fall for these theories if they have a high need for structure. In their tests, these individuals were also more cognitively rigid, meaning they struggled to update their beliefs even when presented with clear counter-evidence. This is why standard fact-checking often fails. The conspiracy theory is fulfilling a deep psychological need for order, and logic alone can't always compete with that comfort.
It's a reminder that we don't just process information with our brains. We process it through our personality and our needs.
Next, we have a major discovery in the fight against a deadly infection.
Scientists may have found a hero in the fight against mucormycosis, or black fungus. This is a terrifying infection that can be fatal in half of all cases. It surged in India during the pandemic. Researchers discovered that albumin, the most common protein in our blood, is actually a powerful natural defense against this fungus. Patients who died from the infection almost always had strikingly low albumin levels, a condition called hypoalbuminemia.
The study, published in Nature, showed that albumin works by blocking the toxins and proteins the fungus uses to invade human tissue. But there's a specific detail. The albumin needs to be enriched with fatty acids to work. These fatty acids actually interfere with the fungus's metabolism. In lab tests, when they removed albumin from healthy blood, the fungus grew like crazy, but when they restored it, the infection was stopped. This could lead to simple albumin-based therapies that save lives for people at high risk, like those with severe diabetes or malnutrition.
It's incredible that a protein we already have in such abundance could be the key to stopping such a fast-moving killer.
Finally today, we're going to slow things down with a practice for the heart.
We're looking at a meditation designed to nourish an undefended heart. It starts with a quote from the poet Hafiz about how the mind can sometimes be like a battering ram, shouting about 10,000 things that don't matter. The goal here is to learn how to relax the barriers we put up against the world and connect with the shared human experience of pain and care.
The practice asks you to find a comfortable position and check in with your heart and belly. Then, you bring to mind someone you see regularly but don't know well, like a neighbor or a cashier. You acknowledge that they too face struggles and pain, and you offer them phrases like, "I care about your difficulties. May you be held in compassion. May your heart be at peace." It's about expanding that circle of care beyond just yourself and your inner circle.
It's a powerful way to end the day, realizing that while we can't save the world, we can choose how we hold our experience of it. By letting ourselves be moved by others, we find a kind of courage that an armored heart just doesn't have.
That's all for today's roundup. We've covered everything from the pesticides in your fruit to the hidden intelligence of your heartbeat and the protective power of blood proteins.
It's a lot to process, but it all points to one thing. Our bodies and minds are far more interconnected than we often realize. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.